Hey ladies, I'm Tiffany Dawn and I'm so excited you could join me for a coffee date. Today I want to talk about how to know if your dating relationship is healthy or not. So I'm going to share 4 signs of unhealthy dating relationships. If you want to see more videos like this of teen girl advice, then hit the subscribe button. Below. When I was in college, I got into this really bad relationship with this guy, and at first I was just crazy about him and so in love I couldn't handle the thought of not being with this guy who seemed perfect. Like, here's the thing, a terrible relationship can seem perfect at first. Like, this guy was everything I ever wanted, like a youth leader, a worship leader. He was super attractive. I thought it was like so cool that I got to be with him, but I had no idea that those things weren't really what made a good relationship. But then he'd start telling me, like, I'm having a hard time falling in love with you because my ex-girlfriend is so much prettier than you are, or sometimes I feel like you're worthless, and trying to control the way I dressed, the shampoo I used in my hair, like everything. And by the time I realized how bad it was like I had zero self-confidence. I just didn't think I could break up with him because I didn't think anybody would ever love me again. Since then, I've heard so many stories from other girls and been asked so many times, how do I know if a relationship is healthy or not? I wish I could just go get coffee with every girl about this, but instead figured we can get coffee here in my apartment in upstate New York together. Warning sign number 1. Isolation. If he starts cutting you off from the people who have loved you for years, their friends, your family, and saying who you can or can't be friends with, run. Those should be the first people he's getting to know, because they can help you know if he's a good fit for you, and vice versa. And when you're isolated in a relationship, it makes it so that you don't have the support system you're used to, and so suddenly the person you're dating becomes your whole world. It makes it much harder to break up with them. Number 2, manipulation. If somebody really loves and respects you and you say you don't want to do something, they'll be okay with that. They might ask you why or want to talk about it, but essentially if you really are like, I don't want to do this, whether it's something big or something small, they're going to respect you in that. If they're like always trying to talk you into or guilt trip you into doing something that you didn't want to do originally, they're probably trying to manipulate you. Now, both guys and girls can be in harmful relationships. We have this stereotype in our culture that the girl is the one who's the victim, but that's not always true. I hate to admit, I've tried to manipulate boyfriends by crying before, so I have to be careful to not do that. Number 3. What was number 3? Oh yeah, put downs. If your boyfriend is regularly putting you down and saying things that are hurtful to you, sometimes people do this by accident without meaning to, but if it becomes a trend of this person doing it repeatedly, that's a big warning sign. A person who loves you is going to call out the things that they love about you, and if they tell you things that need to be improved, it's going to be done in a way that's loving and respectful, not in a way that's hurtful. It's easy to have a double standard in this area and think that we can call somebody out in a kind of rude way about their faults, but be offended if they call us out in a rude way. So we need to make sure we're treating others as we want to be treated. Number 4, too much arguing or no arguing. Sometimes people say, we have such a great relationship, we never argue, and usually that's because one of the two people is not being honest with the other. When I was in that unhealthy relationship, I almost never disagreed with him, and it seemed like we never argued, but really I wasn't being honest because I wanted him to like me, and I thought if I disagreed, he'd get mad and he wouldn't like me as much. Really, if I wanted to know if the relationship was healthy, a good way to do that was for me to be honest and actually disagree with him and then see how he responded. And in my case, when I was honest, he responded in a really hurtful and negative way. And that in itself was a huge warning sign. You want to be with somebody who care about you enough to listen to what you have to say, even if they don't agree with you. You want to be with somebody who's humble and willing to admit when they've done something wrong and ask forgiveness. If they're not willing to admit that they've ever done something wrong, if it always has to be your fault or you feel like it's always your fault, that's a huge warning sign. You can argue and still be in a good relationship and be respectful and love each other, or you can argue in a way that's extremely hurtful and negative to the other person and to the relationship. So see, when you're honest, what happens, what kind of arguing it is. And if there's a lot of playing dirty, it might be a good sign that the relationship just isn't healthy. some of these signs, they might not mean you need to break up immediately. It might be something, oh, this is a warning sign. I should talk about this with my boyfriend and we should see if we can work through it. And then it might be something you work through, or it could be something that you realize as time goes on, we're just not meant to be. But the way to know that is to really have people that you trust in your life, people who've known you before the relationship, know you guys as a couple during it, and can kind of speak into your life and say, hey, here's red flags that I see, because there's more than just these 4 things. These are just 4 of the main things that I often see in relationships. If you're in a relationship that's actually abusive, then check out the Domestic Abuse Helpline or the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And those will be some good places you can get advice and help for where to go, what to do. But know that no person deserves to stay in a relationship that's hurtful or abusive. Being married to my husband James now and seeing his kindness, if I had known that that kind of guy was out there, if I had believed that I was worth waiting for that kind of relationship, I wouldn't have stayed with my ex-boyfriend another second. So those are a few signs that I've learned of unhealthy relationships, and I hope they're helpful to you. If you have any other ideas, leave them in the comment box below. I'd love to hear what helps you know if a relationship is healthy or not. Thanks for watching. What am I doing out of bed? That's a question I ask myself every day.